Thank you, Pam, for that introduction. I should also add that my favorite cartoon is the Smurfs. When I was little, I love those things, and I wish they were still on TV. I don't know where they are, but booth 140, is that where people go to ask them that question? Amazing. I'm going to be there. Hang out. So I've never had this Madonna-like microphone contraction, so this is a new one for me. And if this works out well, we'll go over across the street and perform and scare kids and all that stuff. But I'm here to talk about essentially 3 case studies of corporate partnerships with Kiva that we've learned a lot from and have had some promising results, and I think can illuminate ways that whether you're a business and you're looking to effectively engage a nonprofit, or if you're a nonprofit, maybe an effective way to kind of position or dream with that small business or with that business in order to create impact. We'd love to share some of the things that we've learned. So before I get into the case studies, what I wanted to do is just acknowledge everyone here in this room. We are, whatever our issue is, we are all trying to do something that makes the world a better place. And that's why we're at this conference. And, I think one of the things when you kind of step outside, whether you go to your family or your friends or to the folks, just right across the street, one thing that's a challenge, no matter what issue you're working on, whether it's poverty or climate, domestic hunger, access to education, clean water, it's hard to rally a bunch of people to get involved in the thing that you see so clearly. And I think what's behind that is what social scientists call compassion collapse. That is, these problems oftentimes are so big, climate change, poverty, domestic hunger, unemployment in America, they're so big that the average individual doesn't feel like their action makes a difference. And if they don't feel like their action makes a difference, they basically kind of are lulled into inaction. And this happens, for example, in voting. A lot of people choose not to vote because they don't feel like their vote makes a difference. And then there are those of us who do and who try to fight every single day and try to basically get people to connect with the impact that they could make. And if enough people felt that impact, we would have a much better world at the end of the 21st century than we had at the end of the 20th century. So at Kiva, let's see here. At Kiva, we've set up a website that tries to make social issues very personal and tries to create quick feedback loops in the form of lending, not a one-way donation. And those quick feedback loops, plus that very sense of personal connection, human scales the problem and gets people to act in really amazing ways. And then once you start getting repaid, when you make, say, a $25 loan to this woman, Brenda, she was on the website last night in Kenya, looking for, in total, a $1,200 loan to buy inventory for her shop. You and hundreds of other people who visit the Kiva website can basically lend $25, and then once that thermometer is filled, essentially you can participate in her business success. As basically she starts repaying her loan, those repayments come back to you, and then you can turn around and relend to someone else or withdraw that money. And it's not the money that people care about, it's the information around something going right when they actually contributed and got involved. And that's what I think creates that engagement that basically has built up over time. So essentially now at year 7, Kiva is an organization. We're based in San Francisco. There's quite a large social media following, and what's really interesting is over 1 million people now have registered and made a loan on the website, and they come from not only the US, but from 150 countries worldwide, totaling $420 million in loans. And what's interesting is, for example, 2,000 schools and universities now are on Kiva, using it as a way to do good. The money has flowed to about 1 million entrepreneurs in 70 countries, including here in the United States. 83% of the loans on Kiva go to women, and there's been a 99% repayment rate on the website. Thank you. It's a real credit to the working poor when given a chance for an opportunity and an affordable loan. They take it extremely seriously. I just got back from Kenya last week, and as someone put it, I was in Kibera, one of the slums in Kenya. You don't have to try to change the world. You just have to try to change the world for one person. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is really make this accessible, human scale, with short, quick feedback loops. So now that the Kiva website is going as I would say, as a retail way to give, we started to work with corporate partners around their problem statements. And in talking to a number of corporate partners out there, what we learned is that there's kind of three problem statements or three needs. The first is they're oftentimes looking for something that has a very high participation rate. It's really hard if you're running a business to get all your employees to participate. There's a set of employees who are like uber engaged, right? And they'll show up at your office and they want to do stuff. And then there's a set of folks who can't be bothered, and then recalcitrant set. And so look, if you get employee participation rates north of 50%, that's a really big success oftentimes. And so that's something that people were looking to do, is how can we crack the participation rate so we could get 80% plus participation rates. The second thing that people were looking for is visibility. We need to make sure that it's good for the business, and oftentimes there's different stakeholders, whether it's government, whether it's folks in the local community, whether it's social media. They wanted to basically do something in a way that it wasn't like a tree falling in the forest, but that actually a lot of folks took notice, and then it actually created more budget, more energy for social good. And then finally, given the limited budgets, whether they're kind of CSR budgets or even test budgets within the marketing department, they needed to be able to cover a wide range of people and have a high ROI and have it be extremely trackable so that they could share that at the end of the year in shareholder reports and really be able to demonstrate the results in order to test in and do more. So one thing that we started to co-develop together is, instead of a group of people within the company figuring out what to do with the CSR budget, like a small group, and then spending the money, and then publishing an intranet article for all the other employees, or maybe all the other customers to read about, why not let your customers or your employees spend your money? How could you actually crowdsource your CSR? This is the thing that we're trying to develop. So here's a few case studies. Let me tell you the mechanics before I get into the case studies, because it can get confusing sometimes when we talk about it, so I want to try to make it as simple as possible, and then there'll be time at the end to basically do some Q&A. Let's say fictional company XYZ wants to put in $1 million onto Kiva. What we will do is we'll take that $1 million, and instead of forcing that company to hit lend $25, lend $25, lend $25 40,000 times, which is ridiculous, we convert it into these $25 free gift cards. And we convert it to 40,000 of them, right? So then 40,000 people in their community with that $1 million can basically do good for free, courtesy of company XYZ. Now, the cool thing is as, let's say, you, sir, basically lend $25 to a woman in Cambodia, courtesy of company XYZ. You lend their money. As that woman in Cambodia repays that loan, and on average, loans get paid back in 10 months on Kiva, the money goes back to the company. But now you've had an experience of doing good for free, and then the question is how much money of your own do you start putting in over time? And that's called the freemium model. A lot of the apps on our phones, for example, they let you download it for free, and then over time, as you start using it, you start becoming a paid subscriber. And so that's what we're doing with a lot of companies now, is essentially allowing them to use their limited CSR budget to essentially engage a lot of people, whether they're employees or customers, to basically get onto the system, feel good about the brand, and then ultimately they start, once you take almost the training wheels off, they start lending on their own and putting in their own money. So let me talk about these economics. With that $1 million, if there's a 2% default rate on Kiva, right, that's the amount of money that you might lose over a course of a year, your real cost will be about $20,000 in lost, plus maybe your opportunity cost of capital, which right now no one's earning very much in their bank, so it's maybe another $10,000. So your total cost is $30,000. For that $30,000, 40,000 people can engage And the results that we're seeing right now is that in 12 months, those 40,000 people will put in an incremental $1.2 million of their own money into the system. And that money will recycle year over year over year. They'll tell more friends, and we can start making a dent on some of these really big social problems. So right now, the social ROI after 1 year stands at about 40 to 1. For every $1 of cost in CSR budget, they're basically generating 40 times in terms of new money into the system that's addressing social causes. So here's TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is the world's largest travel site. And what powers that site are their reviewers. These are people like you and me who come back from maybe a bed and breakfast and will leave a review, and they're the most valuable users of their website. And what TripAdvisor was looking for about a year ago was a way to say thank you to these people who run their site. Well, or who really power the site. And they needed it to be something that was meaningful to the reviewer because they didn't want to do something cheap. They needed it to be global, that affected everyone in every country, and they also needed it to be affordable because they're a public company and they need to run a business. So what they did is essentially they started with a test budget of $250,000, and anytime you write a review now, you guys can try it from a country that Kiva operates in, so that's 70 countries. You get once you write the review on the TripAdvisor site, you get a thank you email, and it looks like this. It says, travel changes lives, you can too. You cared enough to review your trip to Colombia on TripAdvisor, thank you. Now TripAdvisor wants to help you lend to someone or help someone in Colombia build a better life. You know, oftentimes you're driving back to the airport and you see these shanty towns and you wonder what can you do, and it's not really clear what you can do. Now, you get this email, and courtesy of TripAdvisor, you can lend $25 courtesy of them. And so basically, you choose a borrower to get started. You'll see a list of all borrowers in Colombia, say if you come back from the country of Colombia. And what's interesting is we were expecting only 1% of people who saw this automated email to actually click and do it. It's been running at 7%, which is a really high click-through rate for email marketing, especially for an automated confirmation email. So essentially, in the last 2 months, since we've launched it, 5,500 low-income entrepreneurs in 61 countries have benefited. 6,100 people across the TripAdvisor reviewer community have taken action, and they are now the #1 lending team on Kiva. We keep track of kind of different groups on Kiva. There's 25,000 groups that are lending, and TripAdvisor is #1. They've shot to #1. And what's really amazing, and their CMO really loves this, is that there's been a strong social media visibility, as well as they've gotten a lot of ink in LA Times, TechCrunch, Boston Herald, etc. So that's the way that they've basically taken a small amount of money. In fact, it's only been $150,000 of that $250,000 that they've deployed so far. And here's what's really interesting. Of that $150,000 that these 6,000 people have tried, they've now put in an incremental $250,000 of their own money in the first 2 months. So that $150,000, all like 99% of that will get repaid back to TripAdvisor. So the real cost is $1,500 to generate all of this buzz. That's what we're really excited about. Here's how you can track it on the Kiva website. These are called lending teams, and each company basically has teams. Within a company, you can set up kind of sub-teams so that your printers division can compete against your software division, or your European division can compete against the American division. Social good can be social, and it can be fun, and that's something that we're trying to do on the website. Let me give another example. You're going to be hearing after I speak from an amazing CEO, Kurt Napton, who runs eRewards. And he was looking for a way to engage his employees. He has 1,200 employees in 25 offices worldwide in a corporate global CSR solution. Each office was doing kind of their own thing, but he wanted to create a global culture of service. So Especially because one of the unique characteristics of his workforce is that he has a lot of millennials, and these millennials really were reporting that what they wanted to do is not only be a part of a fast-growing company, but they wanted the company to stand for something larger than the company's own profits and growth. And so he was looking for a way to kind of bring more soul into what they were doing. So essentially, each employee was given a free $25 gift card. That cost us $30,000. And basically, they ran a campaign that in 24 hours, we want you to use the free gift card from eRewards in 24 hours, $24,000 in 24 hours. And they used Kiva's APIs to basically do a real-time map of kind of where the impact was being made. So literally employees, it's like, sometimes in a public company, you're refreshing Yahoo Finance to see your stock ticker or whatever. Employees are like refreshing the browser to see where the money is going from all these offices all around the world. It was pretty exciting. And essentially, the results are in this first period of time, 2,000 low-income entrepreneurs in 50 countries have been reached. A 75% participation rate with their employees, which is really, really amazing. Speaks a lot to the culture that they've created. But this is across a bunch of disparate offices. And then here's a great thing. They do a survey every year, and they ask a series of questions. And versus the previous year, when asked the question, how do you feel about the company's impact on the community? They had a 60% jump in positive responses from their employees. So this is a way that you can do well, do good, and now they're looking at expanding it to their customers, not only their employees. And again, the cost, because of that 99% repayment rate, is just a fraction of what you're allowing people to use on your dime. Capital One Bank, and this is my final example, is headquartered in Northern Virginia, and they were looking to do something within community engagement. They were curious about finding a nonprofit partner that was mission aligned. They do a lot of small business lending. They wanted to help support small businesses. And they were particularly interested in building their own social media presence, the number of positive things that were happening in social media around Capital One. So Kiva has recently launched a pilot called Kiva Zip. Kiva Zip basically allows money to go directly from all of us via PayPal right to the borrower. There's no middle microfinance institution. And so this allows for true P2P, and we can do this because people in the US are online. They can actually use PayPal, and we can actually do this now at a fraction of the cost of the previous, what we call Kiva Classic model. And so we're trying this in the US, and you can see this map that there's a bunch of kind of places that we're starting out right now that are fundraising on the website. In fact, this gentleman right here, Gerald, runs Young G's Barbecue Sauce. He was fighting in Afghanistan. He told his platoon members, if we get out alive, I'm going to come back to Waterloo, Iowa, where I was raised, and I'm going to start a business selling my parents' barbecue sauce recipe. And so now all of us can basically support people like Gerald to start his own small business as a returned veteran. Anyways, what Capital One was interested in was all the businesses in the DC area that get posted to the website, they want to match it 2x. And that would basically allow these businesses to raise money faster. It'd catalyze all these people to start picking these businesses. And what's been interesting is that with the $500,000 in loan matching funds that they put in year one, since we've launched it, 17,500 people, or 17,800 people have actually been matched. And that's helped 165 US businesses. The media coverage has been great. They've been picked up in the Washington Post twice positively, which is fantastic for Capital One, and a bunch of other outlets. They've gotten a lot of tweets as well as retweets, including to Kiva's 1 million plus followers between our CEO and kind of the Kiva accounts. And then, again, it's just a very low cost. On that $500,000 with that 1% default rate, their real cost in year one is $5,000. So they'll be able to use $495,000 is what's projected at the end of year one to do it all over again. So basically, one thing I want to leave you guys with is the problems we know are so big, and that compassion collapse gets in the way of a lot of people from actually taking that action. And one thing that I think gives me a lot of hope is this concept of, what can we make absurd in our lifetime? If you think about it, 15 years ago, we're all here in California. If you walked into a restaurant, people would be smoking. Your waiter would walk up to you and have a cigarette, and you watch Mad Men, or you'd be on a flight here, and people would light up a cigarette. And now the culture has completely changed, where here in California, certainly, it is absurd to think that you light up and smoke in a restaurant or smoke on a plane, right? It's just absolutely absurd. That's how quickly things can change that seem intractable. That could have been a public health issue. What about things like poverty, climate, hunger, unemployment? These feel so big, but how can we basically use these mechanics of getting people involved, not just the group here that shows up at 9 a.m., all of us, but getting down to our nephew and our aunt, getting people who are watching the Kardashians or playing Farmville on Zynga, right? Building virtual farms when you could be building a real farm in Uganda for about the same amount of money on Kiva, right? How do we get these people to engage? And we invite you to try to human scale the problem, get people to feel that quick feedback loop so that they can feel their own impact. And when they do, we think that we can make a lot of these social issues together absurd in our lifetime. So thank you. And now I'd love to do some questions. The question was, how do you find and vet your beneficiaries? There's two models now at Kiva. There's what we call the Kiva Classic model. This is the way that we've scaled the organization. There's a new website now called Kiva Zip. Let me talk about Kiva Classic. The way Kiva Classic works is a sheriff right here, or these people that you see, they are vetted by local field partners. So Kiva's job, we have 100 staff around the world. We vet local field partners, oftentimes microfinance institutions. These are banks for the poor that basically find, work with, provide technical assistance, and then do lending to the poor. And they take the photo, write up the story, and post it up onto the website. And what happens typically is when Joseph right there, Joseph will have that money pre-dispersed because we don't want to make Joseph wait for the loan. And then what you're doing is you're backfilling that money. And then as Joseph repays that loan, the money goes back to you. So if Joseph defaults, you and the 23 other people who've chipped in for their $500 loan lose their money. So in a way, the internet community is underwriting these loans in the Kiva Classic model. And that's the most efficient, socially impactful thing that we could do in this model. But now we're curious, with technology, 6 out of 7 people on the planet have a cell phone. I just came back from Kenya last week, and did you know that 80% of the adults are using a mobile payment system called M-Pesa, where nearly 25% of the GDP is being transacted through mobile payments? Literally, I could beam you money on my phone, like I text it to you. You could go to a local gas station owner, text the money to him, he'll pull Kenyan shillings out of the cash register and give you money. It's amazing, and it's spreading really quick. It's amazing how the future's in Kenya, it's not evenly distributed in here yet. Well, with systems like M-Pesa or PayPal here in the US, we're wondering now, can we reach people directly? But you still need to figure out how you keep out the fraudsters or people who aren't ready for credit, let's just say. And the way that we're doing the Kiva Zip model is through character-based lending. This is how banking was done 100 years ago. The banker in your town would get to know you, would kind of ask, your church pastor, does she show up at church every week? They really get to know you, that character-based lending. And so now, on the Kiva Zip platform, if you know a small business in your community, I want to invite you to go out, and they have a hard time accessing capital, and nearly 7 out of 10 businesses that apply for a bank loan here in the US get rejected. If they have a hard time getting access to capital, maybe a gardener or a housekeeper or someone like that even, you can vouch for them for a starter loan of anywhere between $2,000 and $10,000 on the Kiva Zip website. And we'll trust you because you're part of a trust network. And if that person pays back that loan, then you'll be able to vouch for 3 more people. But what's even better is as that person pays back that loan, we'll report to the local credit bureaus so they can get onto mainstream banks, and then they can turn around and vouch for people in their community. So we're hoping to leverage trust networks and technology to really bring down the cost of reaching a lot of people who have been overlooked by the banking system today.
So if we're a small business in California, we want to engage our employees in this sort of micro-volunteering, can we set up a portal and then focus on, let's say, for a business that has offices throughout California, on a particular state or a particular community? Is that already ready?
So let me just say the question. The question is in terms of volunteering opportunities, we talked about the Kiva Zip model, where could your employees go out and basically go into the community and...
No, just like loan money.
Oh, loan money. Okay, so not volunteering.
Sorry.
Well, let me talk about the volunteering piece. And then the lending piece. So on the volunteering piece, the thing that we're starting to see is I just invited all of you who know a small business that's underserved by a bank today to be able to become a trustee. We'd love to get to know you, get LinkedIn and Facebook connected to you just to make sure you're legit. But if we're all here at 9 a.m. at the B4B conference, we're probably pretty legitimate people. And we're willing to basically allow you to vouch for someone in your community. And so now this can actually, we've now seen student groups at like Berkeley who are out in the community vouching for people, pastors in Oakland who are vouching for someone in their congregation, and actually employee groups who basically take a Saturday, go out into the Bronx, and basically get to know a small business, understand their cash flows, and vouch for them on the Kiva Zip website. So that's the volunteering piece. On the lending piece, here's how it works. Basically, you can talk to me, or Karen Buxton is in the back. Karen, do you want to raise your hand? And we have a Kiva booth right here, and you can decide how much you want to put in, say $100,000. That would basically make it available for 4,000 of your employees, a free $25 trial. They would lend that money over the course of the year. The money would come back to you, so your cost would be maybe $1,000 or $2,000. And then we would watch, and we'd track it to a lending team, one of those, what's the name of your company?
HMC Architects?
Okay, HMC Architects would have its own lending team, so the employees all over California would be able to see each other and have their photos uploaded. And essentially, over time, they would start putting in their own money. And then you can reuse that $100,000 again to maybe just match them. That's how it works.
I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So you're talking about getting people started with small businesses. Do you provide or kind of connect them with financial literacy courses too, so that they cannot default on their loan? And I don't know, I think Ford Foundation does a lot of that too, helping smaller businesses get started, primarily through the financial literacy piece of educating people how to start small businesses.
That's such a great point. What we realize is capital is not the constraint. Oftentimes it's capacity. And if you give capital without doing the capacity building, it can be, you can have very poor results socially as well as for just a small business and for the Kiva lenders. So in this model, when we pick these field partners around the planet, and there's over 200 field partners that we pick, one of the main things we look for are the wraparound services beyond the loans. We call it Credit Plus, the financial literacy training, the connection to basically other parts of the value chain so that they can help them with sales. That basically ensures that these small businesses have the support in order to be successful once they do get capitalized. So it's a big thing that we look for. In this Kiva Zip model, where people are vouching for people, quite honestly, we haven't figured that piece out. We haven't figured out how to actually kind of broad-base the training, because if you're vouching for someone, it doesn't mean that you're actually going to help them with basically a lot of financial literacy and training. We're still trying to figure it out, and one model we're looking at is Khan Academy. If you guys are familiar with that, it's a way of doing online video tutorials to basically learn things like algebra. We're wondering if we could actually create online video tutorials, for example, here in the US in Spanish as well as English, to basically modularize the technical assistance or the training needed. And then until you complete that course and take a quiz, you can't qualify to get a loan on the Kiva Zip website. So we're looking at some technology-based solutions there. Thanks for the question.
Hi, good morning. My name is Robin Sharp. I'm with the San Diego Community Foundation, and I have a question for you about the difference between making loans and making grants. So being a community foundation, our business is being that connector between donors and nonprofits, and I'm wondering how do you work with the fact that you get the money back? Is it still considered a charitable gift or charitable deduction?
So what we're we hear this a lot now from, especially as we're starting to work with larger institutional partners, either corporations or even community foundations, and with our domestic focus at Kiva. Essentially, we're creating a donor-advised fund that allows you to basically donate the money, get the tax receipt so it can count towards your 5% disbursement requirements, and then the money can recycle in perpetuity.
So does the money come back into the donor-advised fund?
It comes back into the donor-advised fund on Kiva, and then you can instruct it, I want to lend to women in San Diego. And so anytime a woman from San Diego comes up with a need for a loan, it'll automatically deploy your money.
Great. So that you get the charitable deduction when you put the money into the fund, and then when it comes back in, it's still considered charitable.
That's right, because you can't withdraw the money.
Exactly.
And you're advising us on, so you're not picking the person, you're advising, you're instructing us on women in San Diego in this industry, or, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, and I
Yep.
definitely want to talk to you about it later.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Hi, thank you for your talk. I have a question. I started a company that's working, and what it is we've made deals with major real estate brands to give 20% of their commission back to the charity or nonprofit of the consumer's choice. So the consumer directs their realtor to give to X. And it's working, and we're funding schools and giving away money, and it's wonderful. But would it be something like somebody could pledge the directed donation to Kiva if they wanted to, and then somehow get repaid? So actually they made a donation from their realtor's commission, but they're actually getting that commission back. So it's kind of just came to me right now. Is that something that would work in Kiva?
Yeah, so let me, you'll be meeting Kurt, for example, in a few minutes here. And what they're doing with their customers, and we're starting to see this more and more, is they've created essentially every time they make a sale with a customer, they put a portion of proceeds into a Kiva loan fund.
Yes.
All right, and now the cool thing is we tend to have digital relationships increasingly with our customers. We have their email addresses, we're connected to, they're liking us on Facebook or following us on Twitter. And so there's a way, essentially, for the customers to actually, without having to do the work, see the impact of that fund, not in terms of a thermometer, but in terms of human faces and where that money went.
Right.
And then basically they can continuously check in when they want to. We don't have to interrupt them. They can kind of go to a website, or it can be posted into their email, and they can track basically the impact of this loan fund. So, one thing that we'd advise realtors to do is every time, there's always that negotiation for commission, right? What they could do is say, well, we'll take 50 basis points and we'll put it into this loan fund for affordable housing in this area. And then anytime a loan for an affordable house comes up on the Kiva website in that area, it automatically deploys. So as I'm purchasing in that area, basically I know I'm also supporting when I use this particular realtor.
Yeah, I should speak to Kurt then.
Yep.
Great, thanks.
What's the interest rate to the borrower in the traditional MFI model, the microfinance model, and what is it with this new zip code?
The question was, what is the interest rate in the Kiva Classic model, and then what is it in the Kiva Zip model, the new model? In the Kiva Classic model, when you lend money on Kiva, you can't, it's technically a bad investment, an ROI investment, because you can only get your money back, right? Oh, yep. And then Kiva basically passes that through, and we don't charge any interest rate either. We run on tips. Every time people make a loan, we ask you for a tip. However, we send it to the field partner, and the field partner worldwide, on average, charges 35% interest. Everyone always goes, oh my God, that is so high. The cost of doing these loans is incredibly high, right? So the field partners' profitability, the ones that we work with, on average is negative. They're still not covering their costs because they're making these $100 loans in rural villages. However, we think that with the Kiva Zip model, by using technology like this M-Pesa system in Kenya, where you can get money point to point, and trust networks, because so much of the cost in doing credit is actually the credit evaluation piece, we can really bring down the cost. So right now at Kiva Zip, the loans are at 0% interest. You get it on your phone and you pay back only the principal. There's no interest rate. Here in the US, via PayPal, or in Kenya, via your mobile phone. And we're hoping that that scales. Just coming back from Kenya, people are over the moon, the borrowers receiving the money, because your return on capital, if you get a loan and you have to pay a high interest rate, has to be pretty good if you buy, say, 3 goats. You have to sell it for nearly a triple-digit return in order to basically come out of poverty, and that can be challenging for people. So we're really excited about this Kiva Zip model to disrupt the cost structure of microfinance. Okay. Thank you so much, and we're available for more questions. Thank you.